Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans. Houston wins this game 23-20. Look at Houston's top 5 graded players in this game. Offensive tackle Laramie Tunsil with an 87.4. Edge rusher Donnell Hunter with a 79.1. Wide receiver Stephon Diggs a 79.0. Cornerback Kamari Lassiter with a 78.2. And then wide receiver Tank Dill a 77.8. Quarterback C.J. Stroud in this game is 73.0 PFF grade. And then for Indianapolis on the other side of things, Dayo Odeyingbo with an 89.8. Their edge rusher with the top graded spot here for this week. Wide receiver Josh Downs, another really good week for him. 79.6 overall grade. Cornerback Jalen Jones, a 77.2. Offensive tackle Braden Smith with a 71.2. And the defensive tackle Grover Stewart with a 70.9. Anthony Richardson in this game, wild ride, as it always is. 55.4 PFF grade in this one. Stat that told the story, Dalton. What do we got?
I mean, we kind of have the same thing here, so we just need to have the conversation.
Okay.
Look, Anthony Richardson completed 2 passes in the first half of this game, and one of them was a screen.
Good looking screen, though.
It was terrific.
Did you say terrific or horrific?
Terrific. Okay. I thought it was great. It was executed very well. I don't know, with Richardson playing the way he is, how the Colts can expect to make the postseason. It's just, I mean, you have a whole game where he's 10 of 32. You have a first half where he's 2 for 15. Even I know he threw the 1 touchdown, but even that was Josh Downs getting open because the guy covering him got slammed by somebody that ran into him. He's completing 40% of his non-screen passes this season. And the interception before the half that gave the Texans a touchdown, it's just egregious. I don't know. Really,
good play by Petrie, but
it was spectacular. No, it was a great play.
He's hunting it the whole way.
He is, but it just doesn't look like when I watch Richardson in the pocket that there's a whole lot of a process. And obviously the accuracy is the main issue. It's always been the main issue. But I think it's just more a conversation about do the Colts want to make the playoffs or not?
Probably.
Then they have to start.
I mean, I don't know. You'd have to ask him.
Then they have to start Joe Flacco. They can't make the playoffs with a guy who in a half of football can go 2 for 15. It's not functional. I understand that.
I don't know. Because what's the goal? Making the playoffs or being the best version of the team that you could be? I think you're riding with Richardson.
Is there a difference right now?
Yeah. Because you can put Flacco in and you could maybe barely make the playoffs, but the goal isn't to just make the playoffs.
And then the other question then is continuing to play him actually helping his development? Because
it better be.
It doesn't. It's not so far.
But he's not going to get better at completing passes by sitting. So either he's going to figure it out by playing or he's not.
It's just, to me, it's fundamentally the lack of a process in the pocket, the inconsistent footwork, and even just pacing the football. I mean, every ball's at one speed at this point. I just don't know. I don't know what exactly the case is other than, well, we drafted him that high to continue to play him right now.
But I think that's basically it, right? And it's not – sometimes it is just about the draft position, but I feel it is the draft position because, you're not just trying to sneak into the playoffs, you're trying to win a Super Bowl one day. And I don't think Joe Flacco gives you the ability to win a Super Bowl one day, all due respect. Anthony Richardson does, but you're right. I don't disagree with anything that really you're saying because fundamentally it's not good enough right now with Richardson. You mentioned it. 10 for 32 in this game. 46.6 adjusted completion percentage. I mean, for adjusted completion percentage, you want to be in the 70s. He's at 46.6 in this game. Just straight up not good enough. That's including the 2 drops, right? Some people are going to be like, well, the wide receivers let him down. There were a couple of drops in this game. Adjusted completion percentage is taking into account the drops, and he was still at 46.6%. He had a 16.4 average depth of target. This guy's letting it fly.
Yeah.
And that's the issue that I have with Anthony Richardson. He is 33rd in the league. He missed weeks 5 and week 6. So I took week 5 and week 6 out on purpose when I looked at this stat. Richardson is 33rd in the league in total attempted passes of 9 yards or less. You talk about you were talking about taking out screens for like completion percentage sake. I'm even keeping him in. He ain't throwing a lot of those.
And the problem is in Shane Steichen's offense, That's actually the foundation of what it's supposed to be.
He's barely throwing them. He's barely throwing
the
them.
way this offense is supposed to run is the way it ran with Jalen Hurts 2 years ago and Gardner Minshew last year, where you move the chains. And Anthony Richardson is the opposite of moving the chains. It's just I thought this would be a good fit when he was drafted because of Shane Steichen and what he could go in there and do and maybe tweak this and get him and reel him in. But he's been unable to reel him in, and he can't even run his offense the way he wants to right now.
If you take out the screens, so if you go from 1 to 9 yards, so 9 yards or less, but then stop it at 1, so you're taking out a lot of the behind the line scrimmage stuff, the swing passes, the screens, or whatever. He is 29th in the NFL at total dropbacks, and then when it comes to total attempts, where is he for this one? He's right around the same spot. Oh, he's still 29th in this one as well. The only quarterback in the NFL who is worse from yards 1 to 9 is Will Levis. That's it. And you've even got backups that have come in throughout the course of this season who are better at that than Richardson is. He is such a perplexing case because he had 4 big-time throws in this game, right? He had some beauties. And you were laughing when you looked up his grade, because how do you have 4 big-time throws and 1 turnover-worthy play, and yet you still have a 55.4 PFF passing grade? Well, it's because you can't complete the easy stuff.
Yeah.
And right now, that's Anthony Richardson to me. The easy stuff does not exist for him, and that's why I say you've got to ride with him. You got to keep playing him, because the only way you get better at the easy stuff is if you actually attempt it in games. But then, of course, they're caught in a rock and a hard place because they're trying to make the playoffs,
and
right?
The problem is, and a similar problem to what you guys used to have with Jameis in Tampa, is that preventing negative throws, preventing negatives for a quarterback is a more stable predictor of performance than the positives in the big-time throws that they create.
Sure.
That side of it, the big-time throws and the things that Richardson is capable of, and we saw, again, to have 4 big-time throws in a grade in the 50s is crazy. It's not stable week to week.
No.
Right? He's as just like Todd Bowles' defense. This is as high variance a quarterback as maybe we've ever seen in the NFL, right? The fact that every week there's so many negative throws, that part doesn't appear to be changing, and that's the part that would worry me. Because I'll be honest with you, yesterday, if Joe Flacco starts and finishes that game, they win that game. Houston didn't play that great. They didn't.
But does Joe Flacco give you the 4 big-time throws? Probably not. He probably gives you 2 at most.
2 of them. But, okay, that's 2 throws throughout the course of an entire game. If he goes 23 for 32 and I take off 2 big-time throws, we're going to win. We're going to score more points. We're going to win. Against a Houston team that I thought played a relatively
I can't prove you wrong.
Decent football. Joe, I mean, he just doesn't have those misses, the easy misses in the short game.
No, and Richardson does.
He moves the chains. And I think that's just me. I think it's pretty clear that if they want the best chance to win, Flacco has to play. If they want to develop Richardson on the field, fine, and they will deal with the consequences of that later, maybe even this offseason. Mm-hmm. But they would have won this game with Joe Flacco playing yesterday. Houston played a very decent football game.
Again, I don't totally disagree with you.
And C.J. Stroud, actually, real quick, to contrast it with C.J. Stroud. He's got Nico Collins hurt. He's now got Stephon Diggs hurt. He had Joe Mixon hurt for a bit. But he's the same consistent, stable force every week. Because C.J. Stroud is the guy who just doesn't screw it up, and that's why they win these games.
I don't disagree fundamentally with what you're saying. But it's just too short-term of an outlook for me.
I get that. You have to at least find out, even if he's not the answer, because then you could do something about it this offseason.
Correct. Right.
It's just it's hard because they're losing close games.
They are, and they're right there. They're 4-4, right? I mean, they're going to be in the mix of things when it's all said and done. But most impressive and most disappointing, really quick for me. Most impressive, Laramie Tunsil. He continues to look like a stud. 88.7 passing blocking grade in this game. The interior offensive line for the Texans, a little bit of a different story, but 90.0 run blocking grade on 71 total snaps in this game. Most disappointing, I was hoping to see a little bit more from Laiatu Latu. I really was. Now, that's on the opposite side of things, right? He's going up against Laramie Tunsil, and so it's a tough assignment. I get it, but 40.8 overall grade in this game for Laiatu Latu. 26 pass rush reps, just a 7.7 pass rush win percentage with 2 pressures. So I was just hoping for a little bit more for my edge one from last year's draft, who has played pretty well halfway through the season. You're most impressive and disappointing.
I'll start. Let me start with the disappointing, because you mentioned the Texans' interior, and this is a problem now, because for the season they ranked 25th in overall grade. Their guards and center. Kenyon Green with a 29.6 grade and 6 pressures allowed. Shaq Mason gave up 5 pressures. Juice Scruggs struggling at center. The interior pass protection here. There's 2 questions. Okay, if you're right, we have the Chiefs. Somebody has to beat the Chiefs in the AFC to go to the Super Bowl, right? The 2 questions are, how do we somewhat slow down Mahomes, and how in the hell do we block Chris Jones? And right now, the Texans, I don't think, have an answer to that second question. And you look at even in their run game, Joe Mixon had 102 rushing yards in this game, only 2 before contact. 2 yards before contact the entire game. The interior of this, it reminds me a little bit like the Niners last year. It was Trent Williams, and then it was a bunch of guys who didn't necessarily always get it done. You have that right now with the Texans, and I'd be worried about that. Most impressive, I'll take Danielle Hunter. Another great game off the edge. 8 pressures, 2 sacks, 78.7 pass rush grade, 30% pass rush win rate. 5 pressures and both of his sacks in this game in the fourth quarter. The Texans have really 2 closers on their team when you talk about Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. In this game, it was Hunter. These 2 guys continue to perform week in and week out. They're a big reason this Texans team has such a high floor. One of the best pass rush duos in the league. Danielle Hunter was the star in this game.
He's a perfect team fit for what they want to do.
Perfect.
Him going from Minnesota to Houston, I think was not that I'm slighting Minnesota's defense at all whatsoever. I just love the fit for both Grenard from Houston going to Minnesota, and then Danielle Hunter from Minnesota going to Houston. I think it was advantageous for both sides, and we're seeing that